Today, Queen Bees, I'm going to show you how to make your very own Haunted Mansion Hatbox Ghost painting with a little extra flair. Yeah. To begin, we are going to be using the drawing of the famous Hatbox Ghost, and if you want to see how this drawing was made step by step, you can get access to this tutorial as well as a ton of other exclusive tutorials by becoming my patron. Not only will you get exclusive tutorials, but you will also get access to my list of traceables, behind the scenes, sneak peeks, and other fun perks like helping me decide what the next painting or drawing should be. So be sure to visit patreon.com/thebuzzartist. Back to the show. Using a Sharpie, I begin by tracing out the outline of my drawing. I had such a fun time tracing all this with my Sharpie because I really get to see the lines coming to life and really popping for me. Now, the inspiration for the Hatbox Ghost, I just love the Haunted Mansion ride. It's probably one of my most favorite Disney rides of all time. I will just go on that ride 3 or 4 times every time I head into the Magic Kingdom, and I never ever get bored of it. Even the song Grim Grinning Ghost, it's just an obsessive song for me, and I could sing it all day long. I even got my husband obsessed with it. That's how much I really love the Haunted Mansion. Now, what I really liked about the Hatbox Ghost was just how funny and kind of parody he was. He is a headless man holding a hat box. It's meant for a hat, but really it's got his head in there, which I thought was kind of hilarious, and I thought this would be a great use of his character. Now, normally on the ride, he actually does have his head, and you don't really see what's in the hat box, but I decided to take some creative liberties here with this painting and actually show what's inside. Now, this ghost is one of 999 trapped souls in the Haunted Mansion, so which one is your favorite ghost? Comment below and let me know. I always love to find out the different types of ghosts that people just fall in love with on this ride. Once I am done with my Sharpie, I can then begin to erase all of the pencil lines so I can really get a nice clean drawing to work with. The paints we'll be using today will be some titanium white, primary blue, and some Mars black. So we are going to be starting with some blue and add some white to it so we can get a nice pale blue to start making our ghost. You'll notice I don't have that much paint on my brush, and there's a reason for that. I still want to be able to see the line work underneath so that I can go back in later with my black and accentuate those lines. So all you really need to do is get a little bit of paint on your brush and add some water, and that's going to really take you a very long way when it comes to painting. Next, I'm going to pull in my primary blue, and I'm just going to start to do the insides of his cape, just so I can really show some depth, accentuate the fact that this is a big cavernous cape. And on the inside of the cape, I want to add some of that shading, so again with the blue, I just go into the edges of my cape and add in my shadows. And looking at it from here, it does look super realistic and super awesome. Went back in with the pale blue this time and went to fill in his hat, as well as the brim of his hat. And then I proceeded to just continue to fill in the various parts of his outfit, dark blues for his legs, as well as for his cuff. And then I went to fill in that little space between his hand and the hat box, and to put in some of that dark blue on his hat as well. Using that dark blue once again with my light blue still very wet, I go in and add some of that nice shading so we can really get a nice look going on with our ghost here. And again, I'm working very lightly with my brush. I don't want to put too much paint on my brush because, again, too much paint on your brush can really lead to stuff getting out of control. So it helps me to kind of keep things in perspective, keep things going slow and steady. Then I move on to my detail round brush, where I start using that titanium white, and that's where I can actually start to add these really cool highlights. So I start working the highlights on his coat as well as on his cape, and this helps to really give him that ghostly appearance. So anything that I think the light would hit on his cape or on his coat, I would go ahead and add a white highlight to that. And again, I'm not using too much paint on my brush, and water is my best friend in this because it's helping my paint to flow very nicely. And take your time with this. Be here as long as you'd like, adding more and more detail of white. It really is going to pay off in the end, especially if you're going to want to use some glow-in-the-dark paint. I then go back in and add in some of the dark blue again, once again to help me with my contrast, to give me some shadows as well. And I always like the juxtaposition of white with a darker color. I think it gives it more of a cartoony kind of look, and that's kind of what I'm going for here, because after all, this is a Disney character in a way, so they do have some cartoony kind of characteristics going on about them. Proceed to even add more shadow where I think the shadow would be in the dark portions of his cape, underneath his arms, for example, where the hat box is, and I try to spread the paint out as best as I can, using just a little bit of that paint and a lot of water. And of course, my paint underneath is still a little wet, so it's blending super nicely. And as you all know, when it comes to blending, I really like to have a situation where my paint underneath is still wet, so whatever paint I put on top, it mixes it with it very nicely. And that's the thing with acrylics, you can do a lot when the paint is still wet. Okay, so next I went back in with the dark blue and decided to fill in the rest of the inside of the hat box, as well as begin to color in our skull head. And I'm using almost like a white color. It has a little bit of blue in it, so you get this really, really pale looking blue. And this is going to help us at the end when we start to put in our glow-in-the-dark paint. And then I went back in with my dark blue just to go and highlight the hard features of our skeleton, like the jaw, the cheekbones, and some of the wrinkles on his head. And then I proceeded to add in some of that white color for his hair. Then, using just black and a wide brush, I proceeded to fill in the rest of the painting background. And I figured black would be a good choice because it helps really give it that ghostly look, and plus black is really great for covering up any mistakes or, you know, basically cleaning up your edges. So I then use my detail round brush and grab my black, and that's when I start to really add in my super details. And again, water is your friend, especially when you're dealing with black paint, because you really want to get that nice ink-like finish. And my brush is almost like a pen, if you notice, with how precise my strokes are, and that's just because I'm using a lot of water to help me out with this. And of course, you don't want to have a glob of paint because that's just not going to do you much good in this case. But I take this opportunity now to start to outline all of the features of our Hatbox Ghost. I like to accentuate his knobby knees, all of the wrinkles on his cape, all of the designs on his jacket. I really want to take this opportunity to give him as much of that detail as possible. And plus it kind of adds, again, that cartoony look that I've been trying to go for. This is a Disney character, so therefore they're going to have that look to them. And I'm taking very careful observance of his fingers. He's got very knobby fingers, so I don't want to lose that. This has got to be probably one of my most favorite paintings that I've done thus far, because, I mean, not only do I love the Haunted Mansion with all of my life, it just had the right appeal for me. I love Halloween, and I love painting cartoony looking figures that I could really have fun with, and this was certainly a blast to make because I was able to just imagine different things I wanted to do with this character and find out ways that I can bring him to life, and it was actually a lot easier than I thought it was, which is really, really cool. Use my black to add in even more details to his coat. Again, the wrinkles are super key here in this case. It is okay that, you know, your lines are not too perfect. That's actually working in our favor. And whatever places that I needed more white, I just used my detail round brush and some titanium white to get the job done. Now we start going with the glow in the dark paint. This paint is from Art and Glow, and this is going to dry as a neutral green glow, which is the type of color I'm going for. So I proceed to take that brush, and on top of my dried canvas, I go ahead and lay down where I want the glow to happen. Now, I did a little testing on this paint, and it works best on lighter paint surfaces. So anywhere that you highlighted with white on your painting, you're going to want to put the glow-in-the-dark paint on that. And you'll see why at the very end how this is going to be super helpful, because it's going to make your glow even more luminescent. And I'm making sure to put a lot of that glow-in-the-dark paint on his eyeballs as well. Once I am done, I take my painting outside to absorb up as much of the fall sunlight as possible so that it can really get a great glow. And after waiting for 20 minutes, my Hatbox Ghost was ready. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please be sure to like this video and to subscribe to my channel. Hit that like button, you know what to do, so you can see more future tutorials like this from me to you in the future. See you all next week, bye!